It's time for the final group of the day. It's Group D. We have 3 players fighting for 1 position to join Stardust and to complete the round of 8. Joining me now, we have Nathanius looking as tall as ever, and of course, Todd back on the desk once again. And just to remind everyone at home and here, before we continue on, we will do the quarter-final drawing tonight. Once we finish with Group D, we will draw out the round of 8 to see who plays who. Welcome back to the desk here, Nathanius. You've been doing a lot of the Red Bull Archon tournament today. You've been having a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been pretty sick. There were some things I did not expect to see used so much, and it was actually really awesome.
And Todd, you've just been up here with me almost all day, to be fair. Yeah, you've cast a little bit, but you've been up here a lot.
I think it's 4 series in a row that you know, we're spending time together for.
Yeah, well, I think we've been doing okay with it, so let's continue down that path. Yeah. Let's take a look at Group D. The story of this group from the very beginning was, how well is Stardust going to play now that he's back in business? And the former champion told us all he's going through in first place, and he did, which left us with 3 players remaining. Rhett and Petraeus is going to be the first game on this stage, and then Jaedong is going to battle for a position to go through in second place against one of the winners of our next match. Nathanius, Group D, when you looked at it originally, what were your first thoughts looking at this?
I mean, it was pretty clear that Stardust had the advantage in terms of preparation, only having to prepare against Zerg players in a matchup where he's been pretty solid for the most part in most of the games I'd seen leading up to this stage. But for the Zergs, I mean, Jaedong's always been good at ZvZ, so you know, whether or not he could beat Stardust was kind of like, will the Zergs have to worry about playing that ZvZ all weekend long, basically?
Yeah, and 3 Zergs remaining, and it comes down to a battle of a mirror matchup, Todd.
Yeah, you say Jaedong's always been good in ZvZ, but as of late, I really think that Petraeus and Red, they've been very high up there as well in this matchup, and just in the European scene in general as well. You know, Petraeus, a little bit of a ladder guy, plays a lot of it, does very well there, and Red, very recently, the resurgence of, actually, I think he's the oldest player in this tournament.
Correct. And he joins us back for the first time in a long time. And the only player as well, not just the oldest in the tournament, but he's the only player that hasn't played on the main stage. His name is Joost de Groen, also known as Rhett.
I invested a lot of my time over the past couple of months to get into WCS and then make it out. It's been my main occupation in my life, so it means a lot.
Rhett looks like he's going to be going on to the round of 16 to play in Toronto. I don't see any way that Violet's going to be able to hold this. Like, the speed, he just slides across. GG, well played, Rhett.
Ever since I was younger, the drive to succeed and my motivation comes from competition, improving yourself, trying to be better than other people, trying to win. And the feeling of winning definitely keeps me going. Your favorite moments are definitely when you look at the crowd and everyone's excited, everyone's enjoying your performance and the games. I don't think it's going to make me nervous. I'm just going to enjoy every single moment. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be a pro gamer, so I'm going to try to make the most of it and enjoy it maximum. So far, I think this year for me has been okay, but nothing spectacular. I failed to get into Season 1 because of my teammate TLO, but she has very strong ZvZ, so I don't really fault myself for losing there. Today, I made a big step, getting to the round of 16. And if I can get any further from there, I would be already quite happy with this year so far.
Bucket loads of experience, bucket loads of tournaments over the years. He's been playing StarCraft for around 10 years now. And as he said in the video, it's his main occupation and always has been. It's his bread and butter. This is what Rhett does in his life. He's a professional gamer and has been for a very, very long time. He's not too sure how long he's going to continue on. But right now, he's back. He's playing well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the top 16 and has a golden opportunity at something not many players do, Todd.
Yeah, if there was a StarCraft Hall of Fame, I'm pretty sure Red would be one of these guys who would be in there. You know, having a long history in Brood War as well as one of the best foreigners there. And now it's actually crazy to think that this guy, years later, is still this competitive. It's very impressive. I'm a little bit envious, I have to say.
He says competition is the main drive for him, but over the years, he's definitely had his ups and downs when it comes to his motivation, but he seems at the highest at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, from a lot of the conversations I've had with pros leading up to this particular event, it seems that this year, Rhett's been picking up a little bit more steam, and you mentioned, especially recently, mentioning in this matchup, I think it kind of comes down to like you get into that swing where you start to realize that you're playing better, and then you feel even more motivated because you have this opportunity, actually making it in this season for WCS, not having to, of course, worry about that season 1 team kill, but being here now, he realizes this is an actual chance to make something of all this talk that's come up.
Well, he's back, but how long will he stay back for? It's time to introduce the 2 players to the stage.
That's exactly right, Sean. Ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for the last group, are you all excited? I know it's been a long day, but we still got 2 more best of 3s here. And Sean, as you were saying, this man, the first player we will see in this matchup of Group D. It's been nearly 2 years since we saw him in the Premier League of WCS, but how long will he stay on the stage representing Team Liquid? It is Rhett. His opponent. Now, we already had a couple Rising Star stories this weekend already, but this young man traveled to all ends of the world to finally get to this point here in Toronto, Canada. Can he go forward? Let's find out. Representing My Insanity, it is Petraeus. The Zerg mirror matchup coming up is super important for both of these guys. So players, please shake each other's hands, enter your booths, and prepare to put on an excellent show for all of our fans here.
As important and as serious as this is, it is great to see Red enjoying his time up there on stage, the walk up those stairs, to look down into the crowd, to realize this is the moment that a lot of people want in their career. He's up there right now, he's playing in the booth, he's playing for a position to move forward, to face Jaedong, to go through the round of 8. But it's not all about just that. There's so much on the line here for both players, Nathanius.
Yeah, if you really consider it, it's not just those results that have come up, but both players have been, very vocal about not being satisfied with just making it this far. When I talk to someone like Petraeus, constantly talks himself down, even though, especially in Europe, was one of the most active players on ladder, more games than anybody else.
And one of the oldest players to one of the youngest players here, Todd. Petraeus, the only thing he's really ever had in StarCraft, in tournament competitions, is this season. Compared to Rhett, Rhett's been up and down, Rhett's traveled the world, he's lived in Korea, he's won this tournament, he's won that tournament over the years. But Petraeus, this is the only thing he's had.
Yeah, so he's, as much as he's going to want it, his lack of experience, on a big stage like this, definitely is going to be something that he's going to need to overcome. Rhett, man, he's been around such a long time. I remember back in the early Wings of Liberty days, he was actually really, really good. He won a tournament, a big tournament with all the best players in Finland back then. He was a serious contender in basically any tournament he entered. And on the other hand, you have an actual proper newcomer with Petraeus. That makes it for a very fun matchup here, I think.
There's a lot of players in this tournament who are so close to breaking out, and very similar is Petraeus in Nathanius. Petraeus has been one of the better players on the European server when it comes to just regular online practice. And he's got something special about him, something that we saw glimpses of in the past, in the Challenger, in the round of 32, and also in his games against Jaedong. As much as Jaedong won it, Petraeus still played very, very well. What is it about him that makes him so good?
Petraeus just has an unfaltering determination. In a situation like this, you don't have the experience, you don't have the confidence of taking down all these big guys. Petraeus is, he's known as, he's that kid that just shows up and always works super hard. He never seems to, he doesn't ever give up, and that's such a powerful strength he has. Through all the adversity of traveling around the world, he's really made something of himself, I think, over the last year in terms of getting a reputation as one of the better players outside of Korea.
Just 19 years of age there, so incredibly young on such a big stage, going up against Rhett here, the smiley Dutchman, who is having a lot of fun, but that was for me.
Nope, that was for me.
Oh, was it? I don't think so, Todd. 10 years older, here is Red at age 29. Comes in at rank 56. Hasn't had too many games within the WCS. As mentioned, he's been active, or inactive, should I say, for the last 2.5 years away from the Premier League. But he's back. He's enjoying StarCraft again recently, and he's starting to perform better again.
Yeah, really, I was really surprised actually. You know, like players like this that, you know, don't post too many results and go on slump at times. They usually tend to either retire or turn commentator. And Red did neither. He had a short commentating stretch, and then after casting a few tournaments, he said, as much as I enjoyed commentating, it's not for me. I want to be back there, I want to compete, and I want to be a pro gamer once again. And guess what? He's back.
And he is competing, and it's a good thing to, you know, put across all scenes, all esports, that it doesn't matter what age you are. And there's a lot of people say esports retirement at 23, 24, 25. Rhett, 29, plays in the most competitive StarCraft II tournament, and he is here today playing on the first map, Echo, in this Zerg versus Zerg against Petraeus. And well, he's mentioned that he's thinking about when to stop, and that is a reality here for him. But right now, the focus is in, can he get to the round of 8? And for every player that's nearing the end of their career, they want to go out with a bang, Todd.
Yeah, I spoke a little bit with Red earlier in the day, and you know, I jokingly asked him if the Game of Thrones was ready to play some StarCraft today, and he jokingly answered, I'm definitely going to play the Game of Drones.
The Game of Drones, but how successful will it be? We'll find out as the game is loading. The first Zerg versus Zerg of the evening. We only have 2 games left. This is the first.
I can't wait for this one. It's going to be Netherlands versus New Zealand, our second last best of 3 of the day. Obviously, I'm going to be a little bit biased for my Dutchie, and you can be biased for your man from down under.
Oh yeah, New Zealand, it's basically just another province of Australia. And when you're as good as Petraeus, we claim you as one of our own.
It's going to be one hell of a ZvZ series between 2 excellent Zerg players when it comes to the mirror department. Just last weekend, I saw Red demolish one of the other top Zergs in Europe, Namchar, 3-0. So he knows what it takes to play some ZvZ. Both of them have been practicing a lot. Both of them know each other. I can't wait for this one, Jared.
Oh, this is going to be a fantastic game. Spawning here in the bottom right-hand side of Echo, it is Liquid Red.
I love how you introduce the Dutchie, and I'll do the man from New Zealand. Over here on the left top side of Echo, he's known as a ladder beast. Give it up for Petraeus.
A battle of 2 very, very strong Zerg vs Zerg players.
Would you say 2 worlds collide on Echo?
2 worlds collide, young and old, the experienced veteran and the newcomer. 2 Zerg worlds collide here, indeed.
I'm loving it. We saw quite a bit of ZvZ yesterday. We saw Jadon go up against Petraeus, and Petraeus did not play a poor series yesterday by any means. It was just Jadon was always half a step ahead. It wasn't like he was completely outplaying him, just making a few decisions a little bit better, remaxing on better units, taking slightly better engagements. But I do think if you're Petraeus, you can look at the games you played yesterday and be like, I know where this went wrong. I can work on that.
Spot on. I would not be disappointed if I was in Petraeus' shoes after those games. He put up amazing macro games against Jadong, and as you said, Jadong just seemed to have some clairvoyance in those games, just seemed to be one step ahead in that decision making. Interestingly enough, Petraeus here, he's such a solid macro player and playing a very safe opening with that pool first. Red on the other side of things, taking the slightly riskier, slightly more aggressive, one would say, hatchery first into that fast spawning pool and gas.
The Game of Drones is already active. He's spinning the wheel right now. And so far, it's nothing but drones.
Nothing indeed. It's something Petraeus is going to have to struggle to keep up with. You know, you can practice against a lot of ZvZ players. You can practice and you can get all sorts of experience. But then you can play against Rhett, and he is just further ahead in that economy than other players. He just knows where to cut corners, where to squeeze out those extra units, and he does not miss a beat with his macro.
I was able to cast Redis games yesterday against Stardust, and even though that was an 0-2 loss, there were very realistic chances for him to win game number 2. And of course, I spoke with him after the series a little bit as well, and it was not like he was devastated. It was an extreme disappointment. He doesn't feel confident currently against Protoss. That's his weakest matchup. He's been very vocal about it. ZvZ, that's much more of his territory, and he was really, you know, he was not shaken up at all. He looked at me, he's like, well, I'm still in it, aren't I? I was like, yeah, of course you are. He's like, two ZvZs. He's like, I still believe. And you know, I told him this morning, I was like, Red, I kind of believe too. He's like, yeah, do you feel it? He's like, if you feel it, then I feel it. So he's in a good spirit, and he's really going to give it his all this series.
Just enjoying it there every single step of the way. Of course, Petraeus did get his Overlord Scout in because there is that delayed Queen for Rhett with his hatchery first opening. Scouted the gas timing. Petraeus is going to know he's just a little bit further behind in that Zergling speed, but otherwise very, very similar build orders so far.
Yeah, all the Overlords just taking their usual positions. Nothing crazy is happening so far. Nothing but drones on the production tab on either side. But of course, you know, when you play ZvZ, when tournament life is on the line, even though it's not necessarily this game, for us, this may look like a relaxing game. If you're a Zerg player, and I'm sure you can attest to this, there are 100 things going through your mind right now.
So look at this, a Zergling Scout getting in for Petraeus, and it doesn't really get to see too much. You're spot on there though, Roddy. There's so many different little intricacies going on, and first of all, we see this variation, right? There's that Baneling nest from Petraeus so early, being so safe. But Rhett, he's got no defense, and he's just building a lair. He's building an evolution chamber, and he's actually cancelled his Zergling speed. So he's tricked Petraeus, showing the Zergling speed, and then saying, let's skip that. Let's just go up to roaches, and he's already starting to build a wall off.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Not because this is unusual, because we've seen many Zerg players do it. Snoot is a fan of stuff like this, even though in general he just takes his guys a little bit later. But I've seen Violet do this numerous times, over and over and over again. And I'm starting to have the feeling that Petraeus has already picked up on it. He spots these links. He's like, hey, why are my links still faster than yours? You're already working on your wall off. There's a very good chance that Red has sort of outsmarted me over here. Zerglings will try to break through, but with a queen there's another evolution chamber going down, so this queen may actually fall in the long run. But I do think with that spine finishing up, I think Red is going to be okay over here, but not before losing a queen.
Forcing a lot of defense there from Rhett. Rhett being panicked here, thinking, is this an all-in? How much do I need to defend here? But Petraeus actually committing all of his units here and not making it through the wall. That's a lot of Zerglings.
Oh my god, one link does manage to squeeze through, and we'll get a good scout up in the main base, but that is about it. Overall, I think I'm okay with that if I'm Red. I'm 6 workers ahead. I've lost the Spine Crawler, I've lost the Queen, but my opponent has produced a lot of Zerglings and even wasted a little bit of gas in those Banelings that, at the end of the day, didn't really do a whole lot.
Not at all. And with the roach speed, the +1 kicking in, you've got to be feeling that confidence as Rhett here. Your opponent has thrown away their mobility on the map. With no Zerglings there, look at this. Rhett takes this third base, and he's feeling very confident now, pumping out roaches. He's going to be moving towards a very clear advantage with those faster upgrades. He will be able to pressure with these roaches, maybe commit a big, hard set-piece timing attack. But Petraeus, on the other hand, is going to have to play a little bit more defensive. He's going to have to be on the back foot and try to eke out small advantages to get back to that even positioning.
Yeah, that's actually pretty massive, because normally with that Zergling speed, of course Red gave up Zergling speed. That means that he's going to be on 2 bases slightly longer than his opponent. But now he's like, hey, you just lost all your Zerglings and your Banelings? Cool, that means that despite my opening, despite not getting Zergling speed, I can still go up to 3 bases as quickly as you are. Petraeus made a few more links, tried to counter, but that hatchery has way too much HP already, and there's nothing he can do about it.
Red doing a little poke here, just a small squad of roaches moving up. Going to take some hits at Petraeus' third. This pressure already starting to mount, and we can see the game of drones starting to kick in behind it. Rhett pressuring here, forcing a reaction and building a lot of economy behind it. But the addition of these speedlings, getting the wraparound on these roaches, this could be a really nice pickup for Petraeus.
Yeah, that's actually very nice. Perhaps Red overextending a little bit there. Zerglings are not too great in fighting against the roaches, but they are phenomenal when it comes to blocking the path at home. Red forced to fight them, ended up losing 2 roaches. There is a small chance he loses 1 more. He should use one of the roaches, not the last one, to shoot at that link. Come on, there's no way that link should kill the roach. No! What a guy!
The hero Zergling absolutely paying his weight there. It's actually going to equalize from here and be a relatively nice situation, but Rhett's got to be confident with that. His roach speed kicked in time to save those roaches, and now he's got that fast +1 carapace upgrade. His +2 is well underway as well. And from here, both players going into that roach stage. Of course, it is quite hard to attack here on Echo, so even though Red has that bit of an advantage, it will be hard for him to leverage that directly against Petraeus.
Like losing a roach like that is obviously not the end of the world, especially not in a ZvZ where attacking can be hard, but it was quite easy for Red to save that roach. He could have used the middle roach or, you know, one of the 2 roaches in the front to just turn around, release 1 shot on that Zergling. It would have gone down, he would have saved one of his roaches. It could be that it's kind of like something like that can get into your mind as well, that you see that last moment, you see a Roach there, and you're like, oh man, I really didn't have to lose that Roach. But then again, Red has made so many drones that he's probably still okay with how this game went, and that could have gone worse. He could have ended up losing all 5 Roaches if there were a few more Lings out on the map.
And an almost uncharacteristic move for Red here. He's actually stopped droning a bit before Petraeus, and he's pushing across with a big horde of Roaches. This is an absolutely aggressive attack. He's looking to put the hurt on here, catching Petraeus with a smaller number of Roaches and getting a nice position on the bottom of this ramp. This fight's going very well for Red, but there are reinforcements coming in from behind.
It is going well. A couple of Roaches were wasting DPS, shooting at 3 tumors, but still there is nothing but Roaches streaming across the map for Red. He still has that Carapace upgrade armor advantage, and he's doing okay so far. But if he goes up that ramp, the cooling tower has been knocked down, so he can't really go all the way up. I think Petraeus will stabilize over here.
The positioning here, look at these Roaches, a perfect concave forming itself. Every single one of Petraeus' Roaches all concentrating their fire on the front of Red's force, and we see the supply gap getting a little bit closer, but there's just such an advantage in the Roach count. I don't know if Petraeus is going to be able to hang on.
There are still 25 Roaches out on the map for Red against only 14 for Petraeus, and the Queens are not here anymore, not only to help out, but they're not here anymore to inject either. Petraeus needs to stabilize. There's no way he can afford to lose drones in a game like this, but actually it seems like it's not going to be enough. I think Red's going to be able to do it over here.
It's so close. The Roaches are eking out the Petraeus just a few at a time, but the supply gap is staying very similar, and it looks like Red is going to be forced to pull back just a little bit. But will Petraeus be able to stabilize? It's going to be very, very difficult.
He's just kind of regrouping. It's still 20 plus Roaches against 12 or 13, even though of course a lot of them are in transit. Not all of the Roaches from Red are fighting over here, but one more Queen goes down. If we take a look at the units counter right now, there's only a single Queen on the map for Petraeus. So if this goes on, this is a numbers game, and eventually Red is just going to have way more production.
Absolutely heroic micro from Petraeus, pulling back so many of these red health Roaches so that they can survive to get a few more hits off. But it just doesn't seem like it's enough here. One Queen has already gone down, another Queen here getting very low, and it does get chewed up by that acid. Red is just looking non-stop aggression here. He just is not putting any space for Petraeus to breathe.
I mean, Tunneling Claws is on the way now for Petraeus as well, which I find very strange, because this is not the moment where he should ever think about attacking. I'm actually very confused about that upgrade.
Oh, trying to squeeze it in there, but I agree with you there. It's a little bit too little. It's not going to kick in time, and all Petraeus needs is more Roaches, but he just doesn't have enough. It looks like Red's just been able to shoulder him over there.
Wow, Red with relentless aggression. Once that Roach attack started, it never stopped. And it looked once or twice that Petraeus may have been able to stabilize, but Red did such a good job in prioritizing the Queens during those fights and not making Petraeus, you know, not giving him the chance to stabilize and get those Queens back, drop a couple of injects, and be able to keep up when it comes to the Roach production.
We see here the recap of that first big push from Red, and if you look at the work account at the bottom, you can see that Petraeus, even though he was a little bit behind earlier, actually droned quite far ahead of Red. So that was maybe a little bit of an overestimation of his position in the game, and Petraeus getting called out for that quite hard here. We see the early stages of the fight just went so far in Red's favor, so even when things turned around a little bit with the reinforcements, it just wasn't enough. Red's reinforcements eventually got across the map and just slowly pushed Petraeus over with that superior economy.
I mean, that's kind of the story of these ZvZ battles. Once it starts, and if you only stabilize barely, you're basically losing the fight, because you know you're fighting on your side of the map, you know that your reinforcements are spawning so much quicker, so you kind of just have to crush that fight. You have to push him back immediately, and if that's not the case, then you often know, like, well, I'm in trouble, because not only will he have Roaches in production on the other side, perhaps even more because I've lost my Queens, there are also Roaches streaming across the map, so from this point on, I am behind. And when you're fighting the same units against the same units, and you have an upgrade deficit for the majority of that battle, it's becoming very difficult.
I have to agree with you there, Roddy. And if we cast our minds back to the early stages of that game, there was that maybe questionable decision of trying to bust in with the Zerglings and Banelings. I think Red took a bit of a lead there. Petraeus maybe reconsidering his approach going into this game too. He wants to make it further in this tournament. This is the big opportunity he's had. He's uprooted his life to move overseas and compete there. He wants to show what he's made of here.
I'm a little bit surprised as well, because I had big expectations of Petraeus going into this tournament. You know, all the Europeans, they've been speaking so highly of Petraeus. They've been joking, you can't play ladder games without running into this Red Zerg that's spawning on the right bottom side of the map. He's representing my insanity. Give it up for Petraeus.
Facing off against his opponent up here in the top left-hand side of Coda. The Blue Zerg, it is Liquid's Red.
But just to go on that a little bit further, it feels like it's been so long already that we expect Petraeus to take that next step. Last year he had a very surprising result. He finished top 8 at the Red Bull Battlegrounds in Detroit, and that was kind of a breakthrough performance. He defeated the Korean Terran Supernova, and everyone was like, man, like we knew Petraeus was good, but now he's really starting to, you know, make it to the next level. He played in a couple of tournaments, like Home Story Cup 10, lost in the round of 32, WCS Season 1, didn't really have a very memorable run at all. So this was finally, he made it to the round of 16, and people were like, yeah, I expected that because Petraeus is really good, but it would be kind of a shame, you know, the story, if the story just ends again right here, it's still a little bit of a disappointing season. You don't want to go all the way to Canada to lose 0-2-0-2.
I don't think Petraeus is ever happy with a loss, and he just wants to keep moving further and further, and he must be growing a little bit impatient. However, it is already a big finish for him. Overall, he doesn't have too much to lose here. He has a lot to gain, but Red on the other side of things, we can see he's been coming in with that same attitude.
It's such a golden opportunity though. Like, I still feel that like Petraeus has not been in his position since he was in Detroit when he played at quarterfinals. That was up to that moment the biggest game of his career, and since then we kind of expected him to have a lot of runs like that, and it hasn't been the case up to Season 2 here, and this is like 6-7 months later.
I think he wants to do something bigger here. He wants to make something more happen out of this game. Of course, looking at the build orders, Rhett actually going for the safer spawning pool first opening this time, whilst Petraeus has actually opened up with that faster hatchery. Both players taking a gas right around the same time. No one really rushing for that gas. Sometimes you see players looking for the really fast mobility, the really fast aggression. But so far what we've seen from these players is more of a defensive focus, more of a reactionary focus, not trying to overcommit to anything too early on.
I think there is a lot of momentum for Red as well going into this game. Right? Yesterday he did lose 0-2, but he lost against Stardust, the Protoss player, and he's been so vocal about his, you know, his dislike of the matchup in its current state. He just feels like he doesn't really know what to do. And this is kind of like the moment where, you know, okay, I've been saying that I didn't want to play against Protoss, I've lost, this is the moment for me to shine, and then game number 1, and it's kind of felt almost everything went Red's way, the way that he wanted it, the way that he had it in mind, and his first big attack, it immediately played out the way he wanted, and that is so nice for yourself because you completely forget about that PvZ series. You're like, yeah, you know, this is my matchup. I'm very good when I fight against my own units.
You play a game like that, it's a confidence booster, isn't it? I mean, it's almost like you're just practicing your build order. You're like, oh, that just worked. Yeah. Oh, well, all right, pat yourself on the back.
And that's why I like this matchup, you know?
Zerg versus Zerg, it's a good matchup, especially for both of these players. They're both very strong in it. Both of them just droning a lot right now, building up those economies, both wanting to play very responsive styles. In the next minute or so, we are going to really see how the players diverge. Both players are going Zergling speed, and here, right at the exact same moment, both players opt for that Baneling Nest. So no one's cutting any corners this game. No one's rushing to that Roach play, and a lot of that is because that ramp on Coda here, it's very wide open for a Zerg versus Zerg, very hard to wall off against Zergling run buyers.
Well, there is one big difference, of course, between Coda and Echo, and that is that it's a little bit easier to swing around with Roaches when you get to that mid phase in the game, if you want to attack the third base or the natural at the same time. On Echo, you can always knock down those cooling towers, and it just gives you a lot of your security, and it forces you to only defend one location. On Coda, it's a little bit different. We see a lot of Zerglings on the production tab, by the way. This is an unusual amount of Zerglings. For Petraeus, I would say 18, that's more than just a little bit of map control.
And this might be the perfect decision, just choosing to go for a pressure. And look, Red is going for a fast third base. Red is not going to be ready for this. Realizing there's Zerglings coming across the map, he's pulling back with his own Zerglings. He needs to start morphing Banelings right now. Oh, those Banelings from Petraeus just outside of his vision.
The good thing for Red, though, is that this game Zergling speed did finish up. So if he gets enough units out, he can eventually deal with this. And that is very, very important. He also has a Baneling Nest, so he has the tools in the right place. Yes, he invested in that hatchery, but it also means that if he stabilizes over here, he's going to be in a magnificent position.
Oh, some decent hits there for Rhett, but he does lose all his Banelings, and there are some units left over for Petraeus. Petraeus focusing on this third base while dropping his own fast third base behind this. Petraeus is not going all in here. Canceling that third is a huge success, getting some very nice momentum going for him. Rhett needs to pull back, he needs to consolidate, and he needs to re-establish that third base to get back on top of this game.
I almost feel this is everything that Petraeus wanted. Petraeus doesn't have to keep this aggression up anymore. He should probably just go home and make sure that he can defend his own third base. Oh, that one Baneling. Oh, that's a few too many links. And you want to sacrifice Red. He will still end up losing 6 or 7 Zerglings against a single Baneling. And 2 more Banelings are going to try to make their way up to this ramp.
This aggression is relentless from Petraeus. Like we said, he's mixing drones at home. He's adding a Roach Warren. He doesn't need to kill with this, but he's getting a second cancel on the third base. Rhett is in a lot of trouble. That being said, what can Rhett do from here to recover? He has Carapace on the way. He's doing a huge counterattack with Zerglings. If he can cancel Petraeus' third, if he can get some damage done, then this could work out really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much dead even in workers, 34 against 35, but Red knows if this game is just going to play out, Petraeus is going to have much more larva, he's going to have much more money in the long run. Red needs to make something happen on the other side of the map. Carapace is halfway done, and Carapace is extremely important. If you have +1 Carapace, your Zerglings won't die to a single Baneling detonation anymore.
Some really nice Baneling hits there for Petraeus. Red's Zergling count getting smaller and smaller, trying to morph Banelings in the face of Petraeus, but Petraeus might just have enough defenses here, even transfusing a Zergling there. The Banelings coming in from Petraeus. Is he going to be able to defend? He needs more reinforcements here.
Red's Banelings are about to finish up there. It could be a 2-for-3 trade over there. No, he's detonating most of them on the Queen. I'm not sure if that's the correct play for Red. He seems to be running out of steam over here. He's producing 18 more links, but for now, this hatchery lives, and Petraeus has 5 workers ahead.
Oh, Petraeus looking to be in a strong position. However, he doesn't have a lot of space to work with. Red's still pushing into his side of the map.
Oh, he just started 7 drones.
Oh, and that Carapace upgrade is getting so close to finishing. Petraeus has a huge economy lead with those drones finishing, but he needs to hang on. And there's still 26 Zerglings out here for Red.
Oh, he gets 2 Zerglings for 2 Banelings. That's a great hit over there for Red. He needs a little bit more, but of course, you know, he has that Carapace. Once again, these links won't die from a single Baneling. Red wants this hatchery. I even think he needs more than just the hatch, but at least the hatchery. That's the least that Red has to get over here.
Oh, only a couple more Zerglings streaming across from him, though. He doesn't really have the damage output here. A couple of Roaches beginning to eke their way out for Petraeus, and it does look like he's been able to stabilize for the time being.
I mean, this is massive for Petraeus, absolutely massive. He made 7 drones while the second wave of this attack started, and he survived. Yes, he lost the Queen, he lost a few units, but he's so many workers ahead. He's already starting his Roach production. The only thing that Red kind of has going for himself is that he has +1 Carapace, but it's quicker layer, quicker Roaches, quicker missile attacks for Petraeus. All those very important things when it comes to mid-game ZvZ is going in his way.
Rhett is a little bit ahead in drones, which is the one redeeming factor. Even though he's got such a slower lair, such a slower +1 range upgrade, he is ahead in that drone count. He does have the third base established. This is why Petraeus is putting on pressure here. He's trying to get a little bit of damage done, seeing if he can force less drones from Rhett, more units, and upon seeing these Roaches, is he going to go for it? No, looks like he is going to pull back as he has been droning very hard at home. There's no more reinforcements coming across to help Petraeus.
Red has been ahead in the drone department for like 10 seconds. Other than that, it's been Petraeus all the way, and Petraeus had a big lead as well. You know, like having 52 drones against 50 drones at advantages, that's nice, but it doesn't really mean all that much. But when you're 44 drones against 30, you're taking like 33% more income when it comes to the income of your opponent. That is just a massive deal for 2 minutes straight. This should really put Petraeus quite far ahead in this game.
And we can see that now reflected. Petraeus already starting that Carapace upgrade as well as that +2 range. Both players going towards the same composition, but Petraeus being up 10 drones, ahead in upgrades. He is looking to establish a very powerful Roach army, almost a reversal of the previous game. This time, Petraeus being in the driver's seat.
Yeah, Red doesn't want to sing this game out to the long run because he knows his opponent is probably going to max out quicker with better upgrades. He's like, if I want to make something happen, it's probably going to have to happen right here, right now. There are a lot of Zerglings on the way as reinforcements. 22 Roaches for Red, 21 Roaches for Petraeus. There are a few more Roaches on the way, but Red also has a lot of Zerglings. I really do kind of feel it has to be now or never for Red, because if this doesn't work, Petraeus is going to be in an absolutely commanding position.
It is absolutely an all or nothing attack, and Petraeus is aware of it. He sees it coming. Look at this. Even Banelings mixed in to completely mitigate those Zerglings, and he does have the +1 range. He's got a lot of Roaches here. More Roaches on the way. Oh, the Baneling hits on those Zerglings are absolutely massive. A beautiful defense from Petraeus. His Roaches even edging their way forwards to get maximum hits, and Rhett's army is absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, great concave for Petraeus, and just like that, we're tied up in this series. Petraeus even sinks off 1 apiece, and after a phenomenal game on Coda, I really like the way that Petraeus played this. He made a couple Zerglings early on, was able to cancel that hatchery, all that he was looking for. Red trying to return the favor, making a lot of links, even getting that Carapace upgrade, just at all costs trying to deny that third base from Petraeus as well, but it didn't happen. Petraeus having his units in the right place in the right time, excellent Zergling and Baneling control, and from that point on he was just in a great position.
It was very, very nice play, and they are going to be going into Varney Research Station now. Interestingly, this map is quite different to Coda in that you actually have a tiny, tiny entrance into your main base, and your natural expansion is protected behind your main. So this map is not very favored for early aggression. It's a very defensive-oriented map. A lot of players love rushing up to roaches here.
But we have seen some ridiculous builds being used on Vani as well. Because of all the things you just said, most people like to go even a little more greedy on this map. We see the 15 pool, or excuse me, 15 hatch first into a 16 pool, and then suddenly you see 10 pool bailing on the other side of the map, and it could be curtains just like that. Now, neither of these two guys strike me like they want to go all out, when they want to roll the dice in game number 3 of such an important best of 3 when it comes to, you know, their 2015 in the year of StarCraft. But hey, you never know. Sometimes you might just feel like, I want to be crazy. I want to be that guy.
Absolutely. It's a matchup, Zerg versus Zerg, where rolling the dice sometimes is the best way to play. It has such an element of poker in it, where if you understand your opponent, you can call their bluff. You can say, I think you're going to take a risk here, and sometimes that pays off big.
If you guys want to tweet about the games, let us know. Who do you think is going to win game number 3? Sorry, use a hashtag red or hashtag Petraeus. And of course, make sure to include hashtag WCS Toronto in your tweets. Otherwise, we can't count your votes. What do you think the people at home expect to win? I have no idea, actually.
Of course, after the first game, there was a lot of votes for red. But I think there's going to be a very equal support for Petraeus. He's just got such a reputation as dominating that European ladder.
Well, let's see how loud the people will get over here for the player introductions. Over here on the top side of Vani, it is your Zerg from My Insanity. Give it up for Petraeus.
Facing off against his opponent, the blue Zerg in the southern side of Varney Research Station. It is Liquid Ret.
Not quite even, I'd say. Quite even.
The cheers sounding loud for everyone, though it may be that famed Canadian courtesy cheering for everyone.
They would even cheer for us, Big.
We can only hope. We can only hope.
One day. Warcraft 4.
The return of Roddy, the pro gamer.
Hey man, give me a Force here and 2 Spirit Wolves. I'm good to go.
Of course, we're not going to be seeing any Spirit Wolves in this game. And what were you talking about earlier? People like to play a little bit greedier on this map. Looks like both players are going to be sending those drones down to those natural expansions. We're going to see a pair of hatch first openings. Both players taking out that economy play.
Yep, both squeezing out at least one more. Both even going 2 more, so exactly what I predicted. You know, that hatch first into a 16 pool. A 10 pool bailing would have done very well. Should have rolled the dice.
They should have rolled the dice indeed. But both players opting for that safer style, and I think it's a very stylistic choice from both of them. Both players understand the other player probably won't take that risk, and so they both play for the greedy option, trying to take the economic edge.
And it's probably a matchup that both of them look at as well. Like, yeah, I know this is going to be tough, but I think I can win. You know, I've been playing a lot. I've been doing well recently. It goes for both of them when it comes to online tournament, when it comes to qualifiers for, you know, stuff like the Hell It's About Time tournament, which Red has won. And even in IEM qualifiers, they have been doing relatively well. So neither player probably feels like they had to take that risk, because if you run into a pool first, you're just like, you're hating yourself for the next 2 weeks. It's like, oh my god, I'm such a degenerate. Why did I have to go 10 pool bailing?
I flew to Toronto and then I threw it all away on a gamble. There's always that fear in that final game. You know, it can be a boon, it can also be a horror story. Of course, Varney here, we talked about how it's a very defensive map. One thing we really want to talk about stylistically, though, is Petraeus loves those fast third builds. Last game, it was Ret that actually started off with the earlier third, but especially here on Varney, something we've seen in the last couple of days is Petraeus loves to get the faster Zergling speed, try to cancel his opponent's third, and then fall back on a slightly delayed Roach play. Whereas Ret, on the other hand, tends to prefer going straight up to that Roach play a little bit earlier on.
No, well, the extractor is so late for Red, and he didn't even really start mining gas. Well, actually, no, never mind. He just pulled the guys off gas for a little bit. So it doesn't really change all that much when it comes to having speed. What I really like, and I've mentioned this before yesterday, is the crazy style on Vani, which you sometimes see where you just pocket a ridiculous amount of Zerglings, and then when your opponent tries to go up to 3 bases, you just run across the map with like maybe a +1 attack or a +1 Carabase upgrade, and you just try to overrun your opponent. But that too is a huge risk in its own.
Oh, a Baneliness coming out of Ret there, trying to be very, very safe. Petraeus on the other side of things is actually not going for that. Notice Petraeus has pulled 2 guys out of his gas geyser from very early on. He's just put them back on, getting a little bit more mineral income and really focusing on, let's have Zergling speed for map control, but let's not have any Banelings. Let's just get some extra queens. Let's get the tech going up. We don't need to focus on that early play, but that is going to leave him a little bit open to any potential Ling Bane aggression from Red.
Red has a small worker lead now. He starts producing his first few links. Could just be defensive as he fires up his layer as well. So I don't think he's going to be crazy aggressive. He had an evolution chamber on the way. Did it finish up?
It actually just cancelled after being scouted by the Zergling. So it looked like Rhett was planning to go for that. Having it scouted, he's cancelled it, now going for 3 gas geysers. Looks like he's shown an evolution chamber, which indicates Zergling, Roach, ground-based play, and he's now swapping towards the Muta focus. A really clever swap.
That's very interesting. I'm really curious to see how this one plays out for Red. Petraeus on the other end, he wasn't too scared after seeing that Evo chamber. He's just like, I'm going to drop my hatchery on the low ground immediately. If you want to produce a bunch of units and cancel it, well, go ahead and do your best. Instead, well, it's going to work out very well for Petraeus because he doesn't really have to worry about Red being crazy aggressive after he just took 3 additional extractors.
Oh, Rhett starting up that Zergling production, building 22 Zerglings to try and secure his 3rd base down. He's completed his droning on 2 bases. He's about to drop his Spire, and in the meantime, what's his focus as a Muta player? It's let's get on that map, let's try and cancel our opponent's 3rd base. But Petraeus has already preempted this. He's already got Banelings out here, and the skirmish begins.
So far, pretty good connections on those Banelings from Petraeus, and he even picked up the drone as well. So maybe this is not massive, but he's delaying that hatchery from going down for 30 or 40 seconds. And that is very nice. Now I wonder, do you think Petraeus is expecting a Spire, or do you just expect, does he just expect Red to go for the regular Roaches into Hydras, into Infestors?
Interestingly, we haven't seen Novaseer to check just yet. Of course, Petraeus' lair isn't done just yet, which is why he can't have done that. But seeing so many Zergling Baneling, Petraeus has to be suspicious that there's Mutalisks on the way, and that's going to give him a lot of time to prepare and build many drones, get those spore crawlers up in time and be ready.
You know, what we sometimes see is just the Zerg player that goes for Roaches and make a very early Roach attack before the Mutalisks are even out yet. But I don't think that window exists. Oh my god, that was so close. That was the moment where you had to hit that X button, man. Manual detonation.
Scary moment for Petraeus, just barely dodging that. Thankfully, Rhett wasn't looking at it or wasn't quite quick enough on his finger pressing it. Of course, the Spire's finishing up now. Oh, coming forward, Rhett here putting on a nice little bit of aggression, but other Banelings going to save the Queen. They do just barely in time.
But I mean, this is still awesome for Red, correct? Because he's forcing Petraeus to stay at home. While I think Petraeus, with those Roaches that he's producing, he would love to just maybe do something about that hatchery that's going up on the other side of the map. But now the Spire has already finished up. The first Mutalisk will be out soon, and Red is going to have map control for days.
Baneling flank in the back as well, picking off 4 drones there. Very cute maneuver from Rhett while distracting him at the front with the Zerglings, flanking in the backside. Wow. I have to agree with you, Roddy. The Mutas here are going to give a lot of map control, a lot of presence to Rhett, and there is a lot of space between these 3 spread out bases to work with those Mutalisks. However, Petraeus has got a lot of drones out, so he will be able to respond with spore crawlers in time.
I think just now Petraeus has actually picked up on the fact that it is going to be Mutalisk. He's like, man, this guy has way too many Zerglings. He's even throwing away Banelings and stuff. I guess he is going Mutalisk. He's morphed an Overlord into an Overseer. He will see the first Mutalisk pop out right now, but these Roaches, I don't think sacrificing them right now is going to do a whole lot for them. 11 Mutalisk will take care of 10, 12 Roaches in absolute no time.
Especially with so many Zerglings in support, and there's so many Overlords on the map for Petraeus. He's frantically trying to pull them off and get enough drones up at home, trying to get those spore crawlers up. These Roaches just getting surrounded here, not getting any economic damage before they all go down.
Absolutely phenomenal over here for Red. Will maybe lose 1 or 2 drones, but he cleans up all the Roaches, cleans up those Zerglings, and now it's just happy Overlord hunting season has opened, and Red's got bullets for days.
Oh, finding these Banelings chilling out in the middle of the map. These Banelings not doing their job. Meanwhile, the Zerglings coming out. Red has absolute map control. He's swapping into Roaches and Hydralisks behind this. Both players, however, relatively even on drones. This is a really nice map control tempo advantage for Red. But Petraeus is in the lead in the upgrades. As long as he can deflect these Mutalisks with his Queens, then he will still be in a good position.
You can get a couple of Overlords, maybe Transfuse is going down. This Overlord having pretty good life insurance as it seems, but in the end it will go down. There are 2 more Overlords. The Red barely misses them. I think maybe he caught a glimpse of it. Man, these Lings are doing a really good job. Those Overlords can be very thankful.
Oh, Petraeus feeling like he's maybe a little bit behind here, a little bit pressed up against the wall, has dropped the Nidus Worm. He is preparing to just do a huge huge Roach Queen assault against the Mutas before Rhett can get up a big enough ball of roaches to defend.
Interesting. I mean, he's up 10 roaches. It's very possible, Gerald. We got a couple of Banelings once more connecting with a lot of drones in the natural. Everything going Red's way. Did Red spot? And Red spotted the Nidus network, by the way. I mean, I'm not sure if he clicked on it, but he has to, right? Like, what else could it be?
That's a huge pickup, but the Nidus is already going down before he's had time to check all of the different various spots. There's a lot of Queens and Roaches in there, and the Mutas are going to be all the way on the other side of the map. I think this might be enough to overwhelm Red. It's going to be very, very close.
I mean, Red has an Overlord on the right side of this Nidus network, but he's not going to see it for now. But he does have a lot of Roaches and a lot of Hydras already on the way. Red needs to defend one time over here. He's up 17 workers. If he holds, he will move on to play the final best of 3 of the day against Jaedong, but it's going to be very difficult.
There's so many transfuses here on these Queens. There are not enough Mutalisks. The Mutalisks, oh, they are going to go for the Nidus Worm. Very clever move from Red. However, his Roaches are just getting overwhelmed so quickly here. Another Nidus Worm going down in the midst of the fight with the Queens protecting it. Those Queens dropping so many transfuses, and this Nidus Worm seems to be working. The Mutas are dying one by one, and there's just no Roaches left for Red.
Oh, there are a couple of Hydras on the high ground doing quite a bit of damage. I mean, it's going to take a while before those extra reinforcements are here from Petraeus, but he's up in supply right now, and Red still has way more drones, which means that the army supply is heavily in favor of Petraeus, and I actually think that the New Zealander might be able to close this game out, especially with these Queens still around as well.
Those new Roaches vomiting their way out of that Nidus Worm, reinforcing so quickly. Petraeus seems to have found that one single blind spot in Rhett's vision. Rhett was looking so good, but he seems to have been surprised by this. He's mounting a valiant effort on the high ground, taking out many Roaches and Queens as they climb up that choke point, but there's just so many more Roaches spilling out.
There are 24 Roaches currently on the map for Petraeus against only 7 for Red. That seems like an almost impossible hold. Petraeus, with that one maneuver, the one Nidus network going down, lost so many drones in the process throughout the entire game, but all these, you know, these Queens, these Roaches, they should be able to close it out for him.
Oh, it's just an overwhelming force here. It is spiraled out of control for Red. What a sad story there. He unfortunately has to get GG'd out of that game.
Petraeus will move on in a massive victory for him, and he has his chance to redeem himself and go up against Jaedong once more after defeating Liquid Red, who's been very hot lately. Awesome performance for Petraeus and a massive victory.
What a fantastic instinctive move there. Finding that opening with that Nidus counterattack after being pushed into his side of the map. Such a great way to get across there.
I am really not sure if Red actually saw that at Nidus network or not, because he was busy with these Banelings. We can perhaps ask him later on, but for now we want to hear from the winner himself, Petraeus, who's on stage with Chobra.
Another big round of applause for Petraeus, who moves on to the last match of the day in his group, going for one more shot to move on to the quarterfinals. Petraeus, of course, you haven't quite made it into quarterfinals just yet, but you get another shot, and you've been trying for this for so long in so many different ways. How excited are you for that one last shot?
I'm more nervous than excited, really. The last time I played Jaedong obviously didn't go that well, so I'm just happy to take this win and have something to take away from the event.
All right, well, like you said, you got this win. At least that's under your belt. Get a little bit of warm-up maybe. Of course, it is just going to be another ZvZ, but let's talk about this match. Had a bit of a rocky start for you in the beginning. Then you had a nice win in map 2, and in map 3, we see Rhett coming in towards your base, and you say, you know what? Just going to lurk in the shadows, get that Nidus out there, and here come the Roaches, and of course with the Queens. What was going through your head when you made that split-second decision to just swap it out right there?
Basically, I've played Red in the past, and I know he's very fond of a build which goes into Fast Hive and then into Ultras. So that was me trying to metagame what he was doing. But he actually didn't do that. He just did a kind of greedy Roach Hydra. So it worked out anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, well, good decision-making all around, of course, for you as you go up 2-1 now to face Jaedong. You said earlier you were a little bit nervous, but hey, you played him once. You have this 2-0 now. Do you think maybe after this maybe 5 or 10 minute break, you'll be able to shake off that pressure a little bit and just play your heart out?
I think I'll do a lot better this time than I did last time, for sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations once again to Petraeus for going on to that deciding match in Group D.
A big moment for the 19-year-old as he is now one step closer to the round of 8. Didn't have the best of times in Group D, but he has salvaged the situation and finds himself in a rematch against Jaedong that he played from yesterday. I'm joined on the desk with Nathanius. and Todd once again. A big moment for this young guy.
Yeah, that was very close, man. He lost the first map, then made it 1-1. In that last game, I really thought that Red, with the initial defense and the Mutas having killed all of those roaches, not losing any drones, I thought he was in a great position. He even flew across the map, and he saw a lot of queens in the main. And it's funny because it crossed my mind. I was like, why is there so many queens? Seems like a possible Nidus situation immediately after Nidus starts. And even though he was in vision for some time, it almost feels as if Red didn't really see that that was coming. And in the end, if you don't see it coming and queens come out of the Nidus and lots of roaches come in, he was even getting some Hydras, which didn't really help.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if he had roaches only, that could have been the way to victory there. Nathanias, Petraeus has been around for a long time. He hasn't had much success in StarCraft II. He's finally getting it this season. Do you believe in him to be able to take down Jaedong after losing 2-0 to him yesterday?
When I think about the non-Korean players, especially the Zergs competing in a tournament like this, I think having chances to beat somebody like Jaedong that is so often touted for his ZvZ, I would only give that possibility to either Firecake or Petraeus. And Petraeus is someone that I've had the pleasure of spending a lot of time talking to. I've gotten to see him at a lot of the events in Europe that I've been to, and I've been able to see him as well and live with him in the Root House, you know, back when he was really starting to live in the United States. And he's just been so determined. I feel like this is what he sees as a really big opportunity to just completely knock everybody on their backs.
I mean, there's not many people out there that can say that they've lived with this guy or really know too much about him on a very personal level. Were there anything you could really pick up from living with him? Talk to us, just describe it. What is he really like?
He's a quiet guy, but the funny thing about Petraeus is that if he goes into an interview or anything like that, he's going to be very calm. He's not going to give the wild boy answers. But you talk to him and you see like loses a game or something on ladder, you're just playing by himself, and he's the kind of guy that still gets a bit emotional about those games. He'll get frustrated like everybody else.
Don't we all, Nate?
But that impresses me. Yeah, don't we all? But that impresses me even more though, because you don't really see that when he competes.
Yeah.
Like he'll still be upset afterwards, but he shows it the least, and he shows the nerves the least, I feel, out of most non-Korean players.
All right, well, thank you, guys. Let's take a look at the bracket one final time here before we move forward to the last game of the evening. It's going to be an exciting one. It is Jaedong who fights for a chance to play in the round of 8. He goes up against Petraeus, who we just saw defeat Ret 2-1. One final Zerg versus Zerg to round up the evening. Which player is going to be going forward to the round of 8? Only one of them can do so, and we'll be finding out in a moment.